What is up, y'all? So, I have had a couple of conversations today. I was trying to think about where to go with this because I'm not going to lie, the first one is a little bit petty, but I had some thoughts and I just thought I would share them. The first one, very petty, but indulge me for a minute. So, what do they say? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So, there is a woman, and I'm going to go to my second point with this, so just follow me. There's a woman who a few years ago when I was having a crisis moment in my life and I needed some help. And I went to this person and I asked her for help. Um, I paid her for help. I signed a contract with her for help as a business coach. And yeah, so she tried to take off with all of my business model and ideas and all of that, right? And so it was brought up again today, which is why I'm laughing. But this is, again, I promise you, I have a deeper point than this petty. But it was brought up again to me today that some of my, some of the main talking points that I have built my model on and like my theory and my thesis on in terms of, bringing economic change to the Black community, this little bitch is still running around using my same talking points. So consider myself flattered. That's amazing. And this is, it's been brought up to me multiple times. It was just brought up to me again today. And like the people who are bringing it up have no idea about the history. So like they're telling me in good faith. And I just find it abso-fucking-lutely hilarious that this girl's still running around using my talking points. Like, bitch, get original. Go and figure out for your own self how to do whatever it is that you feel like you want to do with your own research and your own thought process. But in the meantime, I'm going to consider myself flattered. Okay, so there's my petty. But here's the deeper thing. Because she was not the only one who was removed out of my space and out of my life. And I think the point that I want to make in this is, at times we talk about or we pray about, we meditate on, we affirm these positive things in our life, right? Like you'll say, only for my highest good, remove those around me who would do me harm. You affirm that, the people in your space are people who, you need to partner with and that you have, the best coming to you, right? And that what's yours is yours and just all of those things, right? All of those, affirmative things that we do and talk about that essentially open up the door for the removal of negative shit in our lives, okay? And then when those negative things are removed, when those negative people go away, sometimes you don't see it at the moment, so it hurts, right? Like someone does something to you, someone takes something from you, a long-standing relationship that you had goes away. You know, people start to fall off, things start to fall off, opportunities start to fall off. And I will guarantee you, anytime you ask those questions, anytime you ask that of God, the universe, whatever you see as your higher source, whenever you ask those questions, like you're going to see a change in what's around you because that's what you're asking for. But that pruning process is oftentimes painful. And so you find people who struggle with letting go because it's a place of familiarity or it's a place of longevity or it's a place where, you have, grown to love someone in that space or something, right? And that's contradictory to what we're asking for. So when you have things that are falling out of space, out of your space, right, you have to let it go because that's what you asked for. And so, I find that interesting because just using that particular situation, that was a painful situation for me when I came to someone in confidence and most importantly in crisis and said I needed help, right? And for someone to come in and try to embrace me as a sister only to, do all this BS that she did. But it was also, there have been other stories and scenarios in that time. And what I've noticed the pattern is the ability to walk away and let go when you ask and you receive. And so that's one point. I'll leave that point right there. Maybe we can dig into it at a later time. So the other thought that I have is alignment. So one of the other conversations that I had today was with a business owner who makes six figures, has an awesome idea, not an idea because they're doing this thing, right? So a business owner who is building an awesome business, but is struggling with how to grow the business. And so the conversation that we were having, because it doesn't necessarily specifically pertain to her and her mindset, but we dug into a mindset that I think catches a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to try and summarize it. What you say and what you do and your values have to align. So let me give you an example. If you say pay Black women, and then you also say that we need to have higher livable wages, what happens when someone comes to do a job for you and charges you and you feel like the charge is too high? Do you believe that we should have higher pay and that people should pay people for their work and their expertise? But when someone asks you to pay for their work and expertise, now you're not quite so sure, right? That's when you start saying, well, maybe I can do this on my own, or that's a really expensive price, right? I'll give you another example. And this is just like one of the spaces that I'm in as I'm growing my team. If you need $70,000 to live in Denver, why is it odd for me to push to pay my employees $70,000? That's what Denver's living wage is. But I get pushback on that because it's like, oh my God, can you afford $70,000? The idea there is you can't push for something that your values won't let you live up to. And I'm using pay as an example because I think we've all seen that. Like, you don't want to pay someone for something. You think the price is expensive, right? But also you want to be paid what you're worth. Those things are not in alignment. If you want to be paid what you're worth, you have to be willing to pay someone what they're worth. You can't try and skim everyone else and also try to charge full price for yourself. And so there's a mindset that goes into that, and that mindset becomes out of alignment. Like, your values are in a space that are out of alignment. Now, you can absolutely be in a place where you can't afford something. And I think there's always, like, that's another conversation about affordability, right? And what you can do about affordability. But it's interesting to me when I talk about, and I'm just going to use salaries, right? Like, when I talk about salaries and, y'all see all of my laundry that ain't done. It's because it's almost midnight and I just got home. But anyway, when I talk about salaries, right, it's interesting the way that people see, I don't know if I want to pay somebody $40,000. $40,000 ain't shit. That ain't nothing for anybody to live off of. I'm just going to that's just what it is, right? So how can you talk about paying people livable wages? How can you talk about paying people what they're worth? And then clutch your pearls when someone says to pay somebody a salary that's $40,000. Like, I can't even fathom having a conversation about a $40,000 salary. Not for me, not for anybody else. Like, I can't even fathom that at this point. So I say all that to say, like, there's a place and a space where what you say and what you do is out of alignment. We are literally looking corporate America in the face and saying that there are so many issues with corporate America. The way that we try to work everyone to death, the way that we try to pay people very small wages, the way that we don't offer real benefits, right? The way that we don't care about employees' health and wellness, the way that, we don't have not just, regular benefits, like think about health and dental or whatever, but other types of benefits. How do we help our employees become homeowners? How do we help our employees with childcare? How do we help our employees, with whatever else, right? So just thinking about those things. So we see a toxic nature in corporate America. And then as an entrepreneur who has an opportunity to hire and create a different atmosphere, a different a different environment, right? To create a different culture internally in my own organization. How could I not do that? How can I try to use toxic corporate America standards as my standards and also talk shit about corporate America? So when we think about, and these are where all the breakdowns happen, right? It's like who's running Congress? It's like large corporations, right? Large corporations are running our policy and our legislation. Okay, so we get that. But small businesses are still the backbone of corporate America, right? Like small businesses employ the bulk between after the government. Small businesses employ, so many people in corporate America. Small businesses have more power than they realize because small businesses have the opportunity to change the landscape. The issue is your greed and your values are based in competing for more income. So you're looking at greedy ass Jeff Bezos, you're looking at all of them, right? Let me not go through that list, but you're looking at them and you're thinking, how can I get more like that? How can I make more money? You're not thinking about how do I change the culture and how do we, really create that space of equity? It's the same thing in the rental space. I sit in this, there's this one landlord group that I frequent, and it's always an interesting conversation around landlords who, now these are not, big corporate landlords. Excuse me. These are not big corporate landlords, right? These are, a lot of them are 1 and 2 property, 3 and 4 or 5 property. These are landlords that a lot of them still work. They're not full-time landlords, just all this, right? They're growing portfolios and they're growing investment properties. And I listen to the way that they talk about how they treat clients, and how they treat tenants. And I'm like, you wonder why you can't get a good tenant. Like you can't get a good tenant because you're not a good landlord. And for some of them, when they're talking about like how messed up it is, how messed up the laws are. And I say to myself, if landlords were to band together, we could change the landscape of rents, right? Like we could. Like when I'm looking at properties that I have, when I'm looking at rents that I set, I'm not looking at how do I be the most expensive rent in the area. I am looking at who is the target in this area and what can they actually afford. Because when we talk about what those disparities look like, someone who is making $4,000 a month should not be paying $2,000 a month in their rent. So how can I make my rents maybe $1,200? The issue is that I lose money, right? And I'm just making up arbitrary numbers. I didn't mention a market. I didn't talk about where. I just am saying if the median income in said area is, say $50,000, so you make $4,000 a month, right? The median rents in the area shouldn't be $2,000. It doesn't match. It's out of alignment with allowing people to ever get ahead. So like, obviously I have to take my costs into consideration, right? So, there are those things like this example is really talking about an example of alignment. And I hope that you get that outside of like someone trying to debate me on the numbers. My point is you should not be paying 50% of your income in your rent. So as a landlord, how can I change what's happening when we see that rents are going up and wages are stagnant? Why would I just talk about an issue and then also try to take advantage of that same issue? Where do people step up and step in and allow their values to lead instead of their ego to lead? ego makes you want more and more and more, and it makes you want to flaunt it. Like, you're not okay with making a lot of money without having the car, the house, the clothes, the bags, the shoes to go with it. Not for yourself, but mostly to tell everybody else that you got it like that. To tell everybody else about how much you spend on your closet and how often you change your outfits and how many photo shoots you take to show the world what you have. And I understand that because of the type of society that we're in. I get that. So I don't want to make it seem like I don't, but I'm saying when we start talking about impact and all the issues, where are we looking at what change you can actually affect? And then how does this transfer into how you do your business and your ability to actually grow and manifest what you're talking about? Because when what you say, so you can't talk activism out your mouth and then not do activism in real life. And it doesn't mean you got to get out there with a bullhorn to do activism, right? So if I see an issue with rents, I'm a landlord, I adjust my rents to my values, not to the market. I have the ability, and if others adjust it to their values, they have the ability to change the market. If I'm only about my profits and I don't care about how we injure people, and I let big corporate, if I let the big corporate, whatever, I don't know what, there's a word that I'm missing, but if I let these big corporate entities dictate how to drive the market, right, all we're really doing is driving a wedge and continuing to widen the gap. So there's all these spaces where entrepreneurs come out and say what they want to be, what they want to do, how they want to do it. And they talk from a values perspective, and all that shit sounds real good. Let me just tell you right now, anybody who picks up a good self-help book and reads that shit from cover to cover can come back out here and spit to you stuff that sounds really good, right? Like, then they can come out here and act like they're a self-help guru because they can just regurgitate information without living that in that space, which is why they struggle so often, because it's in fucking authentic. It's not authentic. You cannot live by one thing and do something else. So let me give you like a more down to earth example. If I'm talking out of the realm of like business for some of y'all, like, I don't know what you're talking about, rants and caps and all of that. Okay. So listen, so you cannot say I am a runner and you never get up and go outside and go running. You can't say that. So, you can, yeah, I love to run, right? You having a conversation, y'all talking about health and wellness, and, your girlfriend or your homie is over here getting fit and like, yeah, I'm trying to get in this gym. I'm trying to lose some weight. Oh yeah, I run. I love to run, but you don't never get out there and run. You could pass that off for a little while, right? Because like, who's getting up with you at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. to see if you really going out there running? You could pass that lie off for a long time if that's what you want to do. You could tell people that all day. I run. No one's ever going to, who's really going to question it, right? It sounds real good. It sounds like you're really healthy. It sounds like you've got your habits in check. But at some point, if you're not actually getting up and running, like, at what point do you just stop? Like, you just let it fade into the background. At some point, you just stop saying I'm a runner because you're not really running, right? Or at some point, that guilt sets in like, why I keep telling people I'm going running? I ain't going running. Let me get my ass up and go running. One of the two has to happen. You literally can't keep telling everyone that you do something that you're not actually doing and practicing in real life. At some point, that shit's going to fall apart. Look at Derek Jackson. At some point, it's going to fall apart. You can keep up the facade for a long time. At some point, it's going to fall off, because what your values are, what you're physically doing, and what you are thinking, thus saying out of your mouth, like, some point, those things have to be in alignment. And when they're not, there's a lot of mental issues that come with keeping and forcing those things out of alignment long term. And that's where you start to see people have a serious breakdown in their mental health. You got people out here literally trying to play keep up with the Joneses, and they are not keeping up with the motherfucking Joneses. Then when you see that they have some sort of break, or you see they just disappear, or you see something, right? Like, something has to break. So I feel like I feel like I'm beating that, but I also feel like it's a very difficult concept to grasp because it takes being introspective. It takes being introspective. And people are not okay with being introspective because it means acknowledging things that may not be comfortable. It takes having pillow talk with yourself and being very real with yourself about how you feel, where your ego sits, where your insecurities lie. Like, ego and insecurities are really difficult to talk about. They're very difficult to talk about. You don't want to tell anybody what you're insecure about. You don't want to tell anybody what you don't know because that feeds insecurity, right? And you also don't want to actually acknowledge where your ego sits. So you either get fake humble or you get people like, I don't care what nobody think. I don't care what nobody say. Of course you do. Of course you do. You do. But your ego won't let you tell that. Your ego and insecurities stop you from asking for help when you should get help. Your ego and insecurities make you feel like all eyes are on you. Like there's a narcissism that's in there, right? Like your ego and narcissism, they play a role together in addition with those insecurities. Because I feel like it's all kind of bred off of insecurities. But your ego and narcissism, they play together, based off of those insecurities, right? Because you don't want to go and tell somebody you need help because you're afraid of what they're going to think about you, or you're afraid they're going to know you don't have it all together like you think you have it together. Which is why I always like just having these conversations. Like, I'm just talking about the conversations that I've had today. These are all the conversations I've had today while I sit here and let you know I ain't did nothing with my laundry. Because I'm not perfect, and I don't have to show you all the perfection. I can show you when my makeup is falling off my face because I've been up for hours. I put in something close to a 13-hour day, and I'm not proud of it. I don't want to put in 13-hour days. Guys, I'm tired. Right? But I didn't go into the bathroom and like go straighten up for me to get on the camera. I'm just talking to you because this is real life. But your ego sometimes won't let you do those things, right? And your narcissism tells you that it's because so many eyes are on you, when the reality is ain't nobody really the only people who are really thinking about you are your haters. Ain't nobody really thinking about you in a good sense, in a big sense. I mean, even think about when somebody disappears, right? Somebody disappears offline, you're like, damn, I wonder what happened to them. But then you kind of move on because like nobody else's life is based on your life. And yet we spend so much time and effort trying to prove those points. And that space right there is where so many people, they lose it. Either, again, they have that mental break, right? And I don't mean like a breakdown. I just mean you just have a mental break, like something don't add up. And that's where they start to really suffer from a variety of issues that are, related to them and the pressure that they put on themselves to perform in, this fake ass life that they're building, right? Or they don't really see the type of success that they want to have, or they see it, but they only see it for a short amount of time. I mean, there's all those different spaces. So when you see someone who is able to have, long-standing success, and, they're not really suffering from the types of things that they're suffering from. Like, I'm not about to really get into Derek Jackson, but there's a certain type of mental something or other that you have to go on. I mean, narcissism be damned. There's a certain type of something that you got to go on to have a whole conversation with somebody about how, I mean, not one conversation, to make video after video after video after video after video and write books about how to be a faithful man and be a cheating ass motherfucker. Like, like there's something wrong there. And like, I think people just look at that shit and be like, damn, that's messed up. Or, I knew he wasn't serious. Whatever. There's something wrong there. Like, there's a mental situation there. That's not normal. That's not normal. So anyway, these are just the conversations that I've had today. I thought that I would share them, as long-winded as they are. I don't know. I have other thoughts, just kind of going into some of these spaces. More importantly than the other thoughts, I feel like, I always be talking about I'm gonna come back and tell y'all something, then I'll never come back and tell y'all nothing, because I actually really do be working and I got stuff to do. But I feel like there's room to come back and kind of talk through like some of that evolutionary journey for me, how getting to that space of relinquishing, I won't say that, and I think these are some of the pieces that I would, maybe come back and elaborate on. I don't think that there's anything wrong with ego. There's something wrong with ego unchecked, right? And also there's something wrong with not being able to acknowledge like how your ego affects you and what that looks like. Like, ego is a natural part of people. It's a natural part of our humanity. But anyway, I say that to say, like, there's an evolutionary process of what it looks like to walk through, be introspective, acknowledge your ego, acknowledge how it is affecting your current status and your current state of being, and where you are versus where you want to be. And when people are struggling to see where they are from a mental perspective, part of that is because they're in denial about where they actually are. Even from a mental perspective, like just being in denial about that, right? So anyway, so there's a lot to dig into, just into like the process that I went through, and in a lot of cases I'm still going through, because when you're thinking about personal development, there's always another level, right? So like I have more levels to grow, but I definitely have gotten to a place where I can acknowledge like where I was from an egotistical standpoint, how I had to be knocked down several levels. And then over the last few years, the time that it's taken me to rebuild, not just rebuild on the outside of what you see, but rebuild on the inside for me, for myself, for my children, and to put myself in a better, healthier mental state, to put myself in a healthier financial state, to put my business in a healthier state, and to actually be a person who lives intentionally by my values, and I'm not swayed out of my values. So I've talked way longer than I intended to talk, especially for someone who's as tired as I have now said I am multiple times. But hopefully you got something out of this. And if not, thank you for letting me download myself in this video. I guess I'll just leave you with all of my shameless plugs. Make sure that you go and follow me at Jice Johnson on Instagram, and make sure that you go and follow the Black Business Initiative, and make sure that you go and follow CTN Media, and make sure that you go and sign up for Black Capital, which is happening on April 17th. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about how to access capital in the Black community, and my amazing new friend, Kwame Anku, who is the founder and CEO of Black Star Fund, is going to come and talk to us. And save the date for the Black Boss Summit, which is coming in September. I ain't got no more ands. I probably do have some more ands, because I be doing a lot of shit, but I ain't got no more ands. I'm gonna let y'all go.